Howdy y'all. You got the Bulldog on the channel. Working on this Chevy truck tonight. I'm going to pull out the oil pressure sending in it, and we're going to reach down in there with oil pressure gauge, a mechanical, and we're going to get a reading off of that engine. I've already had it running tonight, so I kind of know where the pressure is going to be, between 30 and 40 pounds, which is pretty low when it's cold. It should be, up there, 60, 50, 60 pounds. I'm going to pull this sending unit out. I'm going to pull the screen out that's underneath of it and get my pressure gauge down in there. And if I fire it up and we're sitting there reading 50 pounds, then this customer is going to go home with money spent out on a sender and screen, money left over in his pocket, and I will be happy to see it drive away. I've kind of preached this before, but I'll say it again. Be as non-invasive as possible when you're trying to do this stuff. The book calls for you to pull the intake manifold off of this thing in order to get this thing out. And you can see I've got my ratchet back there. I've got a medium length extension with a short extension on it, and it puts it at just the right height that you can get in there. And my freaking bear paws got back in there and got that thing unplugged. It's not easy, but you can do it. I'm a firm believer in being as non-invasive as possible, because every bolt you unscrew can twist off. Every plastic tab that you unhook can break. So look at this. I went to pull this cover off. That rubber piece just ripped out of it. It goes on a stud like that. And instead of coming off, it ripped off the forks. It's got forks underneath. Yeah, light. There we go, forks like that. Didn't break anything, it's not a big deal, but it pisses me off. It really does. It's supposed to unhook, but it doesn't. It really aggravates me on dashes and stuff when they got them metal clips inside that clip into there, and you just pull as necessary. And you pull, it takes 20 inch-pounds of torque to release this clip. It takes 15 to break the plastic. On these intakes themselves, when you're unhooking the injectors, for everybody that has to do an intake on one of these, because you do all the time, the knock sensors are always bad. And, sometimes you have to get in there replace that valley on the DOD engines, or the AFM engine, whatever they call them. The 864 that they tried in the 80s that didn't work. This is how I unplug the injectors on this thing. It's just a pocket screwdriver, and I've bent a square hook in the end of it, and you reach underneath and you release that tab and unhook that injector. I have always had to reach underneath the injector and pull the tab out away from the notch in order to get them unhooked. You're supposed to squeeze on the top and it levers and unhooks it, but the plastic just bends. It doesn't unhook the bottom. I've had maybe 1 in 10 before I made that tool and started using it. There's an idea, because you're always having to do intakes on these things. You always have to do intake manifold gasket, because it shrinks up and starts sucking air past it when it's bitter cold, like it is. Well, it's up to freezing now. We're improving anyway. But we get the intake manifold gasket. Knock sensors go bad. The knock sensor harness, it has water intrusion down in there and it corrodes it, so you replace the harness. All kinds of stuff like that. It's just stupid stuff. But it's not incredibly difficult to take off the intake, but it's a liability to try to take out, especially when it is this cold. All the plastic's going to try to break. But I got to run this engine anyway, so. But that's how I do it. You can get it done. You can reach back in there and get that oil pressure sending unit out. I'm going to stop right here and get my gauge installed, and I'll try to shoot another video here in a few minutes and splice them together. Unfortunately, I cannot find an adapter, nor did I have time to make one yesterday, for my oil pressure gauge to adapt to the sending unit, which is a straight cut metric deal. So what I'm going to do is just put the new sending unit in there and see how it does. Now, there was some debris. You can see there's some debris on this below the O-ring. So maybe it has something to do with it. And by the way, tech tip, when you need to pull these screens out, most of the time you want to pull them out to look at them. Well, you don't want to destroy them when you do that. You don't want to stick a pick down in there and jab them. And you know, what I use is a number 3 Phillips screwdriver, and you jam it down in there, wiggle it a little bit, and then rotate it, and it pops right out of there. Works every time for me. Now, this is a Craftsman screwdriver. The one I used down at the other shop is a snap-on screwdriver. But the tip, you know, is number 3 standard size. So that's a tip. I'm going to stick this sensor in here and fire the truck up and see how it sounds. I am really tempted to just start the truck up for a couple of seconds, because there's some junk on the bottom side of that, and he'd start it up and the oil pressure would, you know, gradually drop as it run, and I'm figuring that it's got junk in that tube, but you know, what do you do? You know, the sensor is cheap enough. I'm just going to put it in. The alternative, if this doesn't take care of it, is put the pump in and everything, and then the price for that sensor is negligible. So we'll see you in a minute. All right, we've been running for 10 minutes now, 15, and we're running between 32 and 35 psi across the board. Snapped the throttle a couple times. It jumped up higher than it ever had. So we'll see. All right, we're back from test drive, and as you can see, the engine's warmed up, and we're holding a steady 30 psi, or between 25 and 30 at idle. And as you saw in the earlier part of the video, it was dropping down to 10, 15, and it wasn't even warmed up all the way. So we're gonna all get by lucky on this one. I was scared to death I was gonna have to go in there and pull the oil pump and the sump and do that. I like simple jobs. Get them in, get them out, get them done. The customer is happier. I am happier. I'd rather do 10 small jobs than one gigantic one. So I'm gonna get off of here and I'm gonna go rest. I didn't want to do anything today, but let's get this thing done and out of the way. Customer gets it back because he's gonna bring his other truck over. I just know it. He's got 2 trucks, and then he waits till both of them are down, and then I gotta have something. That's human nature. But I'm going to clear the codes out of this because it did set a check engine light for the low oil pressure. And we're going to give him a call, give him the good news, and see if he can get out here and write a check. He'll run down the road, and I'm going to take a rest. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. Talk to you later.